Not so long ago, in the mysterious land of Toronto, Canada.
Not the actual title of the
We
song.
are Sex Boom-Boom! 1, 2, 3, 4!
Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, a film by Edgar Wright, based on the graphic novel by Brian Lee O'Malley, was released on August 13, 2010. I did not know then that this little film would soon become my favorite film of all time. The story follows 22-year-old Scott Pilgrim and his challenge to date the girl of his dreams, Ramona Flowers. In order to date her, though, Scott must defeat
My 7 evil exes. You have 7 evil ex-boyfriends? 7 evil exes, yes.
Although not explored in the film, O'Malley's graphic novel posits the question, does being good at fighting in video games make you good at fighting in real life? In Scott's case, both in the film and novel, the answer is yes, as he defeats Evil X after Evil X using his fists, music, and brain power. He and Ramona float away together happily. Now, a quick word on the subject of one's favorite film of all time. I define it personally as a film that I find infinitely rewatchable. Not necessarily the best or the most technically proficient movie I've ever seen, but one that I'll always enjoy. Because of that, I always like asking people what their favorite movie is, as I feel it gives a good snapshot on who that person is and what's important to them. Scott Pilgrim being mine is a pretty solid indicator on the type of person that I am and the things that I like. Much like The Sound of Music being my mom's favorite is a very strong example of the type of person she is. With that, I invite you to really think about what your favorite film is. So when someone asks you, you have an answer, as it can help you get to know each other a little bit better. So yes, Scott Pilgrim is my favorite movie of all time and has been for quite a few years. It's so much of what I love. It's absolutely hilarious. The cast nails all the comedic beats. It's full of familiar faces now. And much like the graphic novel, the film is full of comic book and video game references, which a nerd like me totally loves. It's a feast for the eyes, and in large part thanks to the brilliant Edgar Wright. Writer and director Edgar Wright is most certainly a visionary. He makes his movies with little to no studio compromise, which we saw during his fallout with Marvel over his Ant-Man movie, which is a story for another time, but Wright's directing style is the subject of many a video essay here on YouTube. My two personal favorites being Edgar Wright, How to Do Visual Comedy by the sadly now dormant channel Every Frame a Painting, as well as Scott Pilgrim, Make Your Transitions Count by the highly skilled Nerd Writer channel. I will link both these videos below, as these two men are much more capable at breaking down Edgar Wright's style than I am. Edgar Wright signed on to write and direct Scott Pilgrim after reading an advanced copy of the first volume of O'Malley's graphic novel while filming his excellent Shaun of the Dead. Wright said of the chance to adapt the graphic novel, "The books are an amazing mix of comedy, romance, and action. And then on the big screen, the same elements with music as well. Everything that I found interesting about the book and why it felt fresh and unique was irresistible to adapt." Working closely with O'Malley, a final script was finished. Actors were cast and production was started in 2009. A quick word about the cast here, it's absolutely stacked, with Michael Cera, Mary Elizabeth Winstead, Brie Larson, Chris Evans, Aubrey Plaza, Anna Kendrick, Brandon Routh, Kieran Culkin, Jason Schwartzman, and plenty of others. Within this cast are more than a few superheroes and comedy giants. They all play their parts perfectly, with Sarah especially delivering this charming performance as a kid you want to root for despite him being quite a jerk. Wright brought together this extraordinary cast of players, and it's a huge boost to the film. However, despite an extremely talented director, a well-liked source material, and an incredible cast, upon its release in 2010, Scott Pilgrim was a certified bomb. Although receiving high praise from critics, it failed to make back its $85 million budget. Despite that, a Universal spokesman at the time said, "Wright has created a truly unique film that is both envelope-pushing and genre-bending, and when examined down the road will be identified as an important piece of filmmaking." Since its release, it's also garnered a large cult following, and many consider it to be one of the best comic book adaptation movies ever, myself included. Personally, I actually think this movie came out a bit ahead of its time. With more meta and literal comic book adaptations since 2010, like Deadpool, Birds of Prey, some of the more recent MCU projects, I feel Scott Pilgrim would have gotten a large moment in the sun if it had come out just a handful of years later. That being said, part of its charm is that it has these now major stars before they became Steve Rogers or Carol Danvers. It's this visually and sonically epic film with incredible writing and a perfect cast who, like I said, just nail the delivery of that excellent writing. And speaking of epic, the music, the visuals, and the fights all work cohesively together to create this absolute feast for the senses. First, the music.
We are Sex Bomb, and we're here to make you think about death and get sad and stuff! This is the beginning of the song.
I'm hearing voices, animal voices, the chemical, the feminine of this, and I'm reaching my threshold, staring at the truth till I'm blind.
A large part of this tale is about Scott's band, Sex Bomb, a reference to the Super Mario enemy Bob-ombs, and their journey from obscurity to landing a massive record deal with a huge producer through a battle of the bands tournament. The music artist Beck wrote and recorded the songs for Sex Bomb in about 2 days, saying that he really wanted the music to feel raw and honest, and he totally nails it. Scott's bass in particular sounds like it's about to blow out your speakers at every note. The actors all learned to play their respective instruments, with Sarah already being a skilled bass player, and it really sets a great tone from the very opening scene which we saw already. Sex Bomb's music is used frequently and even scores a really great fight scene towards the end, and it absolutely lives comfortably on my rock playlist and will do so until the day I die. As for the visuals, Wright chooses to employ many comic book and video game tropes in a just delightful fashion, using sound effect onomatopoeias, split-screen comic panel views, combo meters, a P meter even, versus screens, and high scores. It's this beautiful blend of comic books and video games that just fit so well together. Wright has always been a master of blending genres. Take his horror comedy Shaun of the Dead, or his cop drama action comedy Hot Fuzz, and his skills are well on display here. From using the sounds and music of Zelda to the comic accurate shot of the Katayanagi twins, he certainly understands the source material and its audience extremely well. The fights as well are a very interesting part of this film. Edgar Wright's opinion on action movies is that they're essentially musicals, but with the fight scenes serving as the musical numbers. Scott Pilgrim actually has plenty of both, and it's basically his take on a musical, an idea that he would really dive into with the truly excellent Baby Driver from 2017. Highly recommend. The fights are fast and full of comic book and video game style, with a particularly great scene happening between Scott and a group of some Hollywood stunt doubles that I won't spoil for you here. I could truly talk about this film and Edgar Wright for hours. They both really mean a lot to me for a lot of reasons. I learned how to play the bass guitar a few years ago, and this film was a massive inspiration, with Sex Bomb songs being some of the first ones I learned how to play. It's one of those foundational and bedrock films for me, and showed me what films could be when a visionary is behind the camera and then allowed to pursue their vision. It's unique, it's bold, and again, I still think it was way ahead of its time. Up until the time I saw Scott Pilgrim, my movie palette was fairly limited to things that either Disney did produce or now produces. Not that that's a bad thing by any means, but Scott Pilgrim really opened my eyes to the idea of truly visionary filmmaking. Edgar Wright is an absolute artist, and through this film he helped me discover a passion and love for film that, as mentioned, started with Disney but then exploded as I used Wright and his films as a step into finding exciting directors and writers who are creating truly incredible art through film. My desires even to work in the film industry and my love for finding new and interesting films all started with this little cult hit. And although I didn't see Scott Pilgrim for a few years after its initial debut, I don't even know if I remember it coming out. I would have been 18 at the time and don't think I even remember seeing a trailer for it. I did actually have the chance to finally experience it in theaters just a few months ago for its 10th anniversary celebration. It was delayed a year because of COVID. I could not stop smiling though. It was everything I was hoping for. It was bright and loud and so funny and just brought me so much joy. Sitting in a comfortable chair in the dark with my wife and a giant bag of popcorn, I could not have been happier. Scott Pilgrim is currently available to stream on Netflix and of course able to rent and buy on various digital platforms, as well as a really great 4K physical release with some really cool bonus features. I highly recommend you check it out if you haven't, and if you have, give it a rewatch, because I'm sure if you're like me, you'll find something new to love or to laugh at every single time you watch it. Thank you.
Because I'm in lesbians with you.
What?
I really, really mean it.